वनक्कम, मैं हैदर अली सैयद आशीर्वाद से यूनाइटेड अंडर तमिल सेवा.
Because the tyranny has taken this world. It's very simple. Kulanai, good morning, Kulanai.
Very good morning.
Good morning, Tamil.
Good morning, Haidar. Vanakkam.
वनक्कम.
Dharmam Saranam Gacchami. Now, I had a question. If you may not think like, me being somebody like atheistic, something like that. I'm not atheistic, but I had a question. Got a question actually. If it may not offend Ruben and Haidar, like, was God a smoker or something like that? No, because I see some people colored differently and some colored differently. So was it like he was smoking sometime and sometime he quit it, or some when he blew the air? Are there any references?
This is what happens that to the layman information. Then there are two verses there. One, God made man out of clay. So based on that, worldwide, people ask similar questions. Then God blew the earth, the breath into man and gave life. So that's why that Kulanai has asked. These both are, it's a very layman statements. Is why the questions are coming in the same pattern.
Now, one moment, Ruben. I think I actually don't want you guys to spend a half an hour and 1 hour on this. I actually asked this question for a purpose to actually add on to what you said. Now,
Exactly.
by asking a question like this, right, I can make people to run around and talking about a feature called God, right, and ask questions about him and all those things, and keep people running around. Then simply, and my life is very very short, right, and whatever holy books, whatever we talk about, they are actually a message to people, right? And why ask an endless question and keep rotating everybody or the whole world around it? Rather, we can use the time to actually discuss like what the message was, because that could actually be a guidance to the shortest period that we're going to live in this world. Can actually enrich it, right?
That's exactly. You set a perfect example for that. But that is setting up an example, right? So this is what most people do. They ask questions about something. It's a layman information for people to simply understand and move on, and listen to other guidance which has been said to live everyday life. The difference between Sangam literature and theologist books is that without using the instructions from God, they say that this is how you live. This is how we live. In fact, in Sangam, the books is that it never been like, you have to live this way, you have to live that way. The narration will be like, you'll get a feeling that they talk about themselves. See, this is how we live. If you think that, it is fine, you do it. If you think it is not fine, please go ahead in your own way. It does not enforce us all these things, the way of life, as a rule for everyone. That is what Asivagam is all about, right? If somebody is curious, somebody is triggered, asking questions, yes, we tell them, this is what it is. That's what the Sangam literature does. Exactly the same thing from every other theology book, but in saying it in a way that, like, this is how we live, you take it or leave it. When you take it and understand it, that's indirectly it's being said. If someone understands this, they take it. If they don't understand it, they leave it. That's all.
I think that's exactly the reason why Tamil literature has perfectly skipped that part, not argue on the creation part, right? Rather, it went ahead and progressively saying the other things which can be guidance to people. Is it not?
Actually, it has said in a very, very simplest and shortest form, saying that earth is made of five elements and man is made of five elements, which is in the Tolkappiyam. Then it does not, and it also talks about how the omnipotence guidance. That's it. They don't talk about because there is omnipotent guidance, you have to sit and glorify over and over. Then it talks about see, there are some guys have preached theology. They say that to show that if the theologies people, so to show God what how they follow the instruction is keep talking about it or live by it and be quiet. I've heard somewhere, instead of keep talking about it, just be quiet and just live by it, the life will be fine. But most people, they want to talk, they want to argue instead of living by that, living by what they are arguing about. And especially they choose something that which is not necessary for humankind and in their day-to-day life to argue about it. It goes well along with the lines you said, Kulambe.
So my next question is: so if this is so, then are we being are the humanity being whoever goes to church, school, church, and mosques, and also temples, three primary major religions, at least, are they being taught the guidance which these messiahs and probably God has given, or are they being taught something different?
They are teaching is one and learning is another. It doesn't matter what somebody teaches. It is up to the man's learning what he wants to learn. In my understanding, that theologians learn to argue with another person and enforce their ideas to another person so that the other person must not have an idea itself. What is the point in enforcing our ideas to another person? Which means that the other person, like me, is not capable of having an idea or must not have an idea. That's why statements are coming, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, because one needs to have followers, right? So that he can show his strength and supremacy and all that. Like, hey, look, what I've got is big, probably too big than the other. Is it not? Because followers are not supposed to be thinkers. Is it not? They're not supposed to question back when if you start talking about something which is illogical or which cannot answer the questions, like how God created a man, right? Those kind of parts.
It's like that has been kind of expected. What you said, that is the followers, and if they question, that is considered as an attack on the teacher himself. But if you look at the old ways of teaching, it is never that one guy stand in front of 100 people and say like these or these, and you have to follow. It is always a discourse, a discussion. In Buddha's narration, see, if today, if you look into any of the sects and ask them what is Buddhism, they'll give you a list, do's and don'ts. But if you read the original uh, versions of Buddha's teaching, Buddha wouldn't have told people that, like, the do's and don'ts. He would have had discussions. During the discussions, that the people understand, each of them will understand according to the level they can understand, and they who wants to follow that, do it. Later, after Buddha, is when that they saw that, like, I don't know, that's a political reason, and a lot of definitions were made and rules were made, and sects were born, and each of them used their sects for their own purpose. Everybody had a purpose. So that's the way it went. Same thing for Jesus. Jesus would have, if whatever you have read, you would be seeing them in public places. He will be talking to people the way, like, probably we are holding clubhouse rooms. And he talked to people. Whoever wants to ask questions, they ask questions. And he talks. Though he was well versed with Torah, she won't be keep on repeating the verses and verses by verses and telling people that you must follow this, because that's what already that Patricios and other people were doing it. Against that is why he was with the people and he was explaining without even using any of the verses. He explained that when somebody comes to corner him is when he refers one of that based on what he said. Otherwise, like, he was not referring at all. He was talking to people, among the people, exactly the similar way Buddha did. Is why they say it like, he could have been Buddha's disciple. The narration came, it is because of the teaching. But the way I see it is because some of the references, based on my Asivagam belief, and I say that it is teachings of Asivagam. Same thing I say about Buddha also. What Buddha said, many things are like, it is Asivagam. Because, like, he attained enlightenment, then later a sect started, like, defining that based on Buddha, because they took the Pali word Buddha and based on that they defined initially way of life and sects, and then it becomes a religion today. Then rituals became, because rituals started defining one from the other. From the rituals was enforced into the sects. Now it is, if you are a Buddhist, that you have to do these rituals. If you don't do rituals, you can't be Buddhist. If it is what is Buddha, if you want to know, the Buddha is someone who's got enlightenment, which means that uh, in intelligence level, he is where he can understand things. That's all. That is what Buddhism is. Buddhism is that it is not a complete one. It is simply walking on the path of intelligence. That is what Buddha means.
Uh, I think Buddhism is derived from Buddhi, right? Buddhi, is it
Exactly.
the knowledge or mind?
Exactly.
What is it in Tamil?
So it
It's a
is
Tamil word, right?
intelligence. It is actually both Pali and Tamil. Because there is a reason that, like, I don't know what is exactly the political reason. Uh, by looking into the history of Tamil ethnic, and even from the historical excavations, which were Pali, that though Pali has a script, Pali has a language as Pali, that it doesn't have ethnic people. But seeing that, there's a lot of probability that, like, Pali could have evolved from Tamil ethnic, or it was another dimension of Tamil. Only thing is that in that one, the scripts were kept secure. The scripts were secured. It is because during the Buddha's time itself, that Chinese had the one habit of securing documents, whichever was written, they used to keep a copy of it because that is one of the primary work of Buddhist sects. That work wasn't done here. Here also we had in palm leaves, but palm leaves stays for about 500 years. So within that has to be rewritten, and in many cases, many situations that those documents were lost because when Vedic people came into Tamil land, they also introduced a ritual that if you burn your manuscripts, you will go to straight heaven. So our ancestors, grandfathers, and everyone, they wanted to go quickly to heaven. So they burnt all their manuscripts. So we have no clue. So when the culture was introduced among the people, we don't know how many thousands and billions of manuscripts were burnt. We don't know that. That's why we do not know the connection between Pali and Tamil. But if in Pali, that many of the words, whether it is buddhi, whether it's metta, metta is for now the Westerners are defining that in a different language, but different meaning. So when I explain to them what metta is, they are getting psyched up. They said no, we never, no one told us this. I said the word is being used till today on a daily basis, which means that it is never an end. For metta, enlightenment, there is never an end. That is what it means. To give a perfect example, I would say that when UG graduates are sitting, let's say that there is a PG graduate is passing by. So the UG graduates can say that, look at the PG guy and say that, metta paditavan. Now, PGs are sitting together and an MPhil guy is passing by. If the same PG guy would be saying, can say that looking at the MPhil guy, metta paditavan. So it goes on and on. Metta is a state which is simply above what is existing. Anything. For example, that in the house, we have a metta. In the metta is that if it is a four-story building, above that four-story, that is the terrace, the open terrace, is metta. And there is a 40-story building is there. And what is above that 40-story? That is also metta. So like that, there are varieties of words there. And one thing I see that probably the Pali is the first one that where before it came to the southern India and this continent languages, Pali is the first one to be affected by Sanskrit. I would say so. It was pretty difficult
Yeah.
for them to break it, but that was the path. Pali is
I
one,
think I
and
think Sanskrit probably did a parasitic thing on Pali probably
yeah,
because they mixed it
no,
and then took it
the point
stuff
is
like
not investing into that. Point is the first one to be affected by Sanskrit is Pali. The rituals, the first one where the Sanskrit rituals were enforced was into Jainism, Mahavir Jainism. That's how Jainism was born. Compared to the Tirthakaras way of life, this Mahavir was convinced with that ritualism and centralized deity business and all. He accepted it in a way. He was okay with what their followers were doing. So that is that one. These are the roots, we can say. That's how they they understand that, then they enter into the other northern languages and destroyed them in the course of it, and now it is prevailing. And even Tamil was literally out of picture. Only Manipravalam was being used till Uve Swaminatha Iyer. It is Uve Swaminatha Iyer, who triggered that thing. Then everybody, other person followed. Then it went on. So there are these things that happen. We are talking about 2,500 years of history, right? Why it is so funny is that exactly 2,700 years ago, certain scriptures were scriptures formed, certain theology formed, certain books were written in the same region, but all three of them bear the different name. One is Torah, another one is Avesta, and another one is Manusastra. All were born in the same region. That is the most funniest thing. That is why the narration, that is how the fear-based community was created. When Tamil segment was like hopeful, hope-based society, and they came up with a fear-based society. They came with supremacy ideas. Avestan supposed to be superior to other people, and Jewish people supposed to be superior than God's chosen people. And in Manusastra, they supposed to be that superior people to the rest of the thing. But prior to that, such kind of a thing was never taught anywhere. It doesn't talk about it.
Yeah,
Even
I see most of Tamil old literatures. They usually talk about equality and all that. There's no strata, social strata, and stuff like that. They talk about different jobs and everything, but nothing like untouchability or the social strata. Like I'm superior than you, and or even another race, something like that. Even they don't even talk about color also, like colors of people, like I'm white, you're black, kind of racialism also they don't do. Actually, I've not seen.
we had nothing to do with color. When we talk about Yadumure Yavarum Pillai, what is the point of talking about color? It is not only Tamils, even in Horn of Africa, in those places, the color was not discussed. When the two different worlds were mixed, whereas the nomadic and the civilized people belong to the civilization, when they were mixed based on the color, nomads said something. They first saw the Negus people. There are two oldest definition terms are there: Negus and Ethiopians. Negus, today they have given a meaning that from Negus the word Negro has come. If you look at what is the meaning of Negus, Negus means elite, traders, and even kings. And the old civilization were like the seafaring community. And when they went to a different land, that Negus, then the term that Negus looked black. So the people who could not understand that, what Negus is, then they said, they are black people. Then they called them Ethiopians. The Ethiopians, the term was derived, coined, even before Ethiopia was created, the country Ethiopia was created. Because they saw these trading people that, they call them Ethiopians with hatred, because it is not a lovable term. Ethiopia means burnt face. Even today also people talk when they want to degrade someone, they'll say like Tinja Munji. They want to do that purposefully. When they can't compete with a person, they will abuse the person. Tinja Munji. That is what burnt face. Because when you say burnt face, it looks cool, right? Ethiopia means that. After that, after the term, I think Herodotus mentioned that Ethiopians, after that is when the country Ethiopia was created.
Vanakkam. Thank you.